Well, hello everyone, hello. I was recently told some startling information about the NLC 8-bit cipher. I got it secondhand, but it is purportedly from the person who designed the module, contradicting some of my assumptions about how it works. I assumed, since we are dealing with bits, that the data input was simply, you can put any signal in here, but I thought there was a comparator analyzing the signal to determine whether it's either high or low, and then translating that into a bit, which it feeds into this little 8-bit shift register. And then subsequently, that these 8 bits can be combined in different ways to make a binary number that can then be expressed as a voltage at these 4 outputs. There's a lot more than 4 possible combinations, but I guess pick the 4 most useful ones, and those are what we have. Anyway, I wanted to test this out and see, because what I was told is that no, it's not treating your data input as a gate signal, but is more like a sample and hold, that the analog value is preserved, and at higher clock rates, the shape of your data signal will manifest itself at the output somehow, like a sample and hold. Let's find out. There's my clock coming from the QCD. I'm splitting it, one going into snare so we can hear it, the other split going into the clock input of the cipher. For data, I'm using the LFO from Dreadbox Nostalgia, a delay with an LFO built in. It has triangle and square outputs. I'm routing them to a switch so I can select them, and then that's coming into channel 1 on Mordax data so we can see it. And the throughput from there is going to the second data input on the cipher. And there's a reason I'm using the second one, which I will describe at the end. But that's going to be the green trace. CV1 from the cipher is coming in on channel 2, the blue trace. I'm attenuating it and using it to control pitch of the snare. CVs 2 and 3, I'm routing to a switch so I can select them. That goes to channel 3, which will be the pink trace. I'm attenuating that and sending it to the volts per octave input of rings so we will be able to hear it. Channel 4 is not different from the other 3 in any meaningful way, and I don't want to clutter up the screen. It's going to be hard enough to read as it is. Also, all of these bit outputs up here, they're just gates. I checked them. You'll have to take my word for it. They're just gates. All right. So here we go. I turn on the square wave data. I'm going to turn off the signal going to rings just for a minute so it doesn't distract us. You can see, I hope you can see, that the blue trace, that's CV1, it pretty closely matches the shape of the data input. Let me switch over to the triangle wave. Again, I mean, it's not going down into the negative voltage. All the outputs on the cipher are positive only. But it's high when the signal is high, and it's low when the signal is low, roughly. It's following the shape. Now, as we saw, that's a CV2. It looks almost like a delayed echo of CV1, but if you look closely, it's not exactly the same. And then CV3, again, it's a variation. We'll just look at CV1 here because it's the one that is closest to the data input. Now what happens if I double the clock rate? Interestingly enough, that is less like the shape of the data input than it was at the slow rate, which directly contradicts what I was told. I am puzzled by this because it means that either the person who designed the module has forgotten how it works, or, and I think that's unlikely, it's also possible that my cipher was improperly built. Because when you get an NLC module, you're not getting it from NLC. You're getting it from someone who built it. Because it's independent builders mostly. I don't know if NLC actually sells these modules themselves. But you get the faceplate, you get the circuit board, and then you have to source the components yourself. I'm not a big enough of an electronics guy to build one, so I bought this from somebody on eBay who built it. And maybe they didn't build it right. If I turn off the data input so that it just flatlines, then the cipher quits generating patterns. Now I'll turn it on just for a second so that it can start, and then I'll unplug this. Now there's no data input. It is still generating a pattern. That's my output from data, and I've switched it off so that it's flat. There's no signal. If I plug that in to the first data input jack, it continues to generate a signal. And it's a long, complex pattern. At first I thought it was random, but it does repeat after a while. If I turn this on, then it will start to generate a pattern that is clearly based on the data input. But if I turn it off, then it'll go back to what it was doing before. But if I move this jack with 0 voltage on it and plug it into the second data input, it stifles the pattern. Now I was told when I bought it that the second data jack is normaled. If I unplug it now, it will stay silent because there's nothing in the shift register. But if I feed it something to get it started and unplug this, it will just keep going. And I was told that's because there is a tricky signal from the bit register that is normaled to this jack, so it will generate a pattern with no data input. Anyway, I was bamboozled by this apparently false information, and I had to find out for myself, and made for a long video and probably not a very interesting one, but there it is. See you next time.